I understand this morning that you have already visited, and this is very exciting because I have not known that you were going to, but you visited two of our members that belong to the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Balboa Food Specialty Company, and also Perscolas. And Perscolas is someone we will be honoring at our banquet on November 30th. Both of these individuals, companies, have been very good to the Hispanic market, and so I'm very happy that you had an opportunity to meet with them and discuss whatever it was that you did discuss with them. With that, I will start asking the questions, and this discussion is part of a broader New York Fed visit to the Bronx. Can you tell me about why you are visiting this borough today?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, thank you, and thank everyone for being here. This has been a terrific day so far. We've already, like you mentioned, had a couple of great visits. And I think these two visits actually are great examples of what we're doing here at the Fed. We're, you tend to think of the Federal Reserve maybe in terms of a government office building or something, but really we are the eyes and the ears of the communities that we serve. And so it's important for me as the president of the New York Fed and my colleagues to get out of our offices in Manhattan and get around the whole district, which is the state of New York and parts of New Jersey and Connecticut. So the purpose of today's trip is similar to other ones we take, is to go out and see businesses that are creating jobs, changing their communities and developing their areas, looking at nonprofits. Especially we're focused on this area of workforce development. As was already talked about this morning, there's been a lot of job growth here, a lot of economic development. This is a great time. Employers are looking to hire people, and a lot of groups are working really hard, like Perscolas and another group we're going to meet later, of helping young people or other people get the job skills that prepare them for the jobs that employers want. I mean, an important part, I think, for our region's economy to be successful and to reach our potential, whether in the Bronx or more broadly, is that we really give people an opportunity to get the skills they need for the jobs, match them up with the employers so they can have, meet their career needs and prosper. So that's a part of our trip, is really to learn more about what's going on in the community, hear where things are going and also hear where some of the challenges are. Despite a strong economy, obviously where the challenges are and maybe what can be done to address them.
Great. I, for one, always have been of the opinion that I want to help as much as I can our minorities. And I know that at the time that I was growing up, there was a lot of need. And so I'm glad that you are addressing that. My second question to you is, during your time at the New York Fed, you have been on several regional visits throughout the second district. What are your views of economic conditions across the New York State, and what about the Bronx specifically?
Right. So, we started at a very high level. The U.S. economy is doing very well. Unemployment's low. Job growth is very good. And that's, I think, the backdrop for the national economy. In what we call the second district, which is the area I cover, you're seeing the same basic patterns. There's very solid job growth. Unemployment has come down, as we've talked about already. So we're in a strong economy. So when I've gone to Buffalo or visited other parts of the New York City area, what you're seeing is a lot of progress, but also opportunities to take on some of these longer-standing challenges. When you think about economic development here, workforce development, job training, those are kind of more higher up on the list of goals. Also around inclusive growth, gentrification are issues that obviously come up a lot. So it's a strong economy, it's an economy that's creating a lot of jobs, but with that, I think there's some opportunities both to address some ongoing issues, but also to kind of prepare better for this wave of gentrification that's been happening in a number of communities.
Well, we certainly do need more training, skills, and so I'm sure that this is something that's very important to the minority communities again, as it is also to other communities. We do need training and that was something that was stopped many years ago, that vocational training. So I'm hoping that we continue along those lines. The Bronx is home to many small businesses, ranging from established mom and pop stores to new startups. What are the key issues facing small businesses, and what can be done to better support these firms?
Well, small businesses obviously make up a huge part of our employment, obviously a big part of here in the Bronx in terms of jobs and economic activity. So one of the areas that we've been very focused on, the New York Fed, and actually much more broadly in the Federal Reserve, is understanding what's happening among small businesses, issues about access to credit, issues around the challenges that folks have in building their businesses. So what we've done at the New York Fed, in real estate they say it's location, location, location. At the New York Fed we say it's data, data, data. So one of the things we have is amazing data on credit availability, small businesses. We do an annual survey, not only in the New York area, but across the country, partnering with our colleagues at the other Federal Reserve banks. We collect all this data. We have economists who are experts who study the data. We share this with community leaders, local governments, nonprofits, businesses, so they can see what's going well, where are the areas where growth looks more positive, where are the challenges in terms of credit availability. So that's one of our primary things that we can do at the Fed, is we just have a lot of resources and analytics that we share. We have a small business website for the whole country, but also specifically here. We've done some very detailed reports about credit conditions in New York City and in other parts of the region, really digging down into the very smallest zip code level of understanding which parts of the communities are doing well, which ones are struggling. And then recently we did a report on Latino-owned businesses and the credit small businesses, understanding in that group where are the challenges, where are the growth opportunities. Again, here we're mostly providing the data and the analytics to help people see kind of what are the things that are going well, what are the areas that maybe need attention, and specifically what is it that is more of an issue. For example, the Latino-owned businesses, we notice that a lot of them don't access credit. They tend to use their own credit, be quite conservative about that, and thinking about if you're trying to grow your business, what are some of the opportunities there, maybe bringing together lenders, investors, and others to help people grow their businesses more successfully.
Definitely, especially when you have small businesses or people who are just using their power of push in order to be able to sustain themselves. So that's a good sign. Thank you. In my role at the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, I have been seeing firsthand that these challenges can be especially acute for minority-owned small businesses. What does the financing environment look like for Latino-owned firms? And are there particular challenges and opportunities that are unique to this group?
So I think, as I said, I think one of the issues that really comes up is that a lot of Latino businesses, according to our survey, they tend to rely mostly on their own funds, family, their own savings, which can be obviously very limiting in terms of growing a business. So one of the things that we can do, I think as a Federal Reserve, is we have this convening authority where we know a lot of the players, whether it's local government, banks, other investors, other nonprofits, business leaders, and try to bring them together, help small businesses really, basically set clinics and workshops to help people think about what's the capital that you could be accessing, bringing the lenders together. Obviously, we have authority under the Community Reinvestment Act. And so we can convene and bring people together that perhaps weren't even aware that these opportunities existed. Also think about financial, getting better at managing finances in a small business, which is very challenging. Helping people find those resources and get access to that and help them overcome some of these issues.
All right. I'm sure that there are a lot of people who need a lot of help. And so I'm hoping that somewhere along the line they can get out of their doldrums, especially in small businesses, and as it refers to financing, as you have mentioned. Another pressing issue for the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and many Bronx citizens is the situation in Puerto Rico. Can you tell me about the island's economy? tell me about how the island's economy has been faring since Hurricane Maria and Irma.
So, first of all, Puerto Rico is actually part of the Federal Reserve's second district. So the New York Fed has Puerto Rico and U.S. Virgin Islands as part of our territory. We take that very seriously, and obviously with the hurricanes, there was the human and economic devastation to both islands. What we've done before at the New York Fed, before this happened, is we actually have a focus group that looks at what's happening in the Puerto Rican economy, collects again the data, shares that with other stakeholders. Since the hurricane, we've redoubled our efforts, especially around this convening power and setting up clinics there in Puerto Rico, bringing together various nonprofits, government, lenders, and other businesses to help tackle the very serious challenges that people, households, and businesses have been facing. We continue to do that work. What we've seen in terms of the economy, obviously, is that the devastation was heartbreaking, but we've seen the economy bounce back over since the hurricanes, and it's doing better. Unfortunately, it's in the context of a huge movement of people out off the island to the mainland, and what that's done is it's really undercut, I would say, the economic kind of growth prospects for at least for the next few years. So there's a lot of optimism among business and other leaders there. I think there's a lot of positive spirit around this, but there is this underlying challenge that the population continues to decline. I think going back to this opportunity, we're bringing more job training, workforce development. I think that there's the business leaders I talk to. I mean, they feel positive. They want to hire people, but what they need to do is somehow get people to come back, work there, and help make the island more prosperous. So I think there's a number of challenges there, but I also think that we're talking to people there. There's a lot of opportunities. We'll be going out next year, visiting to see how things are going firsthand, and we're going to continue our engagement there. So I think, I see some positive bounce back from the hurricanes, but still some pretty long-term challenges that need to be addressed.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, the New York City Hispanic Chamber of Commerce was just in Puerto Rico along with Somos, and we had about 1,600 people there, and many of us went there for humanitarian relief, and we spoke to a lot of the people on the island. So I know that they are patiently waiting to receive support from the states or from the federal government, and so your feedback is very important in that regard.
Do you mind if I make a comment on what you just said? I think this is a key to this narrative about bringing all different groups together, whether it's government, business, like business groups, nonprofits, all of us working together, finding solutions, helping finance, restarting businesses. A lot of small businesses, obviously in Puerto Rico, were not insured. People lost their businesses and houses. We're really working together across all parts of our society and communities to help. So I think that the fact that the Chamber of Commerce is active in that is really important for this.
Thank you. Now, since Puerto Rico is part of the New York Fed's region, this must be a priority for your institution. What is the New York Fed doing to provide support to the island, and what more should be done?
Well, I think from the Federal Reserve's point of view, again, our strengths really are about providing data and analysis. And like I said, we've stepped up our game, tracking very carefully developments, not only the economy, but also the banking system, and then actively convening these clinics and workshops working with our various partners. Going forward, I think it's just going to be a continuation of more of the same, and really, I think, trying to tackle this longer-term issue, not just about the acute problem of dealing with the hurricane's aftermath, but really thinking about long-term structural change in terms of job training, in terms of workforce development, in terms of other incentives that will help the economy both meet its potential, but also prosper in the future. So that's what we'll continue to do.
Okay. Let's see now. What role can workforce development programs play, and we've been talking about this now, in helping small businesses scale and equip better citizens with the skills they need for quality jobs? Have you seen any successful initiatives, particularly in the Bronx?
Yes. So, well, that's perfectly timed. I mean, what's exciting about this is This is a pretty strong labor market. Every employer I've ever met in the last 6 months is saying I can't find workers. So this is and employers are now stepping up their game, honestly, both in terms of being willing to interview and hire people with less experience, being willing to train people, and importantly, partnering with community colleges and other groups that are helping them develop the skills and the talent that we need in the workplace. So obviously today with Perscolas that we met with a program that's designed for that. It's putting together employers and people who want to build the job skills. So specifically, we met with a bunch of students who are learning software development, so writing in Java code. So taking what they had, the stories I heard from the students were fascinating. They'd all gone to school, gone to college, they had learned all the textbook stuff. But when you go to an employer, they want someone who actually can code. They want someone who actually can do the work, has those work skills, and can be productive right away. And so this program that we met with today, and I met with others also doing this, is really preparing people just to jumpstart right into a job, either placing it with one of the firms that they're working with, or more broadly in the labor market. We're also seeing in this program and others this idea of employers and these nonprofits working together. Because, employers are the ones who really know what the job skills we need are. It's harder to push people into the job market when you're not as kind of connected to where jobs are needed. So, and it could be in technology, which is what we looked at today, but also more generally in the trades and other areas. So this idea of bringing nonprofits, the community colleges, the other groups, with the employers working together, I think is really what's going to make all this successful. It's going to allow people who get the job skills they need, the experience they need, get jobs, get that experience on their resumes, and of course employers feel extremely incented to do this because it's so hard to fill positions. So this is going to be, it's just a great time for everybody to come together and tackle some of these longer-term challenges we've had with inadequate job training, inadequate, education for a lot of folks. Get them that experience, get them into that training, and get them productive in the workplace. And from the employer point of view, they're obviously ready to jump into that too. So that's something I think is with the strong labor market. This is this incredible opportunity for everybody, whether it's in the Bronx or more broadly in the country, to really think that this is our chance to help people reach their potential, help our businesses grow, and hopefully all this comes together in a very, very positive way.
Sounds like it's as easy as ABC.
No, it's not easy. And what's interesting when you meet folks is that, when we're talking to groups, is that I think, again, it's this connecting the dots between talking to employers, and we just did a survey of community colleges where they talk about engagement of community colleges with employers. So instead of just teaching you something in a book, to say, employers are saying, well, these are the skills we need, these are the things that will give you a well-paying job, and these are the things that have career potential. I mean, I'm an eternal optimist, that's who I am, but this is not an economy that is running out of jobs. This is an economy where we have a lot of unmet needs. We have unmet needs in healthcare, in housing, education. We don't have enough people to do all the things that we should be doing in this country. So taking those people who don't have the skills, don't have the education, finding a way to bring them into the workforce is, to me, just a first order.
Yeah, it's a big challenge. All right, before I open up to questions and answers, which I'm sure that our people here would like to ask you. So now, from here, where do you go and what have you learned?
So what I've learned, and I have a whole day ahead of me, and it's, obviously I'm very excited to see President Diaz talk to him about what's happening here. Also, we're meeting with another a group that's helping with workforce development here to here, and we're having other visits along the way to learn about job opportunities, job training, workforce development. What I'm hearing here already is a excitement about the future, excitement about what are the opportunities to make our communities stronger, healthier, help small businesses grow, help people get jobs and education and training they need. I think some of the challenges we need to keep track of, one of the things that we see in our data is that a significant percentage of people in the Bronx have no access to credit whatsoever. And what I mean by that is they don't have a credit score, they don't have a credit history, which is Bronx is a very high percentage relative to other areas. A lot of people really struggle with credit, limits on their credit or have credit problems in terms of delinquencies or things like that. So I think that, I'm hearing a lot of optimism on the economy, a lot of things that I think are moving in the right direction, a lot of work in the right direction. I think we also need to help people find ways for, again, on all sides, for people, banks, other groups to work together in helping people have more access, appropriate access to credit, financial planning, financial literacy. A lot of those other issues are also, I think, really important for the Bronx. I think, again, going back to this theme, this is a time where, when times are good, it's a time, as they say, it's the time to fix your roof when it's not raining. It's the time to really invest in our future and plan for the future, because I think this is, economy goes up and down, and that's just a fact of life. Right now, the economy's good, and it's a good time to be really doing this long run plan.
Fantastic. All right, at this point, I'd like to open up the floor to some questions. And before I even did that, there was a fellow with his hand up in the air. Would you please?
Yes. 30 years ago, the federal government gave a lot of tax subsidies to businesses to locate. 30 years ago. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe just step up a little bit.
All right.
30 years ago, the federal government gave a lot of tax subsidies for businesses to build in Puerto Rico. A lot of drug companies, among others, went down there. The tax subsidies ended, and a lot of those businesses are no longer there. So how is it different this time? What were the failures of that plan 30 years ago that now that Puerto Rico is trying to rebuild shouldn't be repeated?
I have this theory that if I don't talk about fiscal policy or policy decisions of the federal government, the representatives of the federal government won't talk about monetary policy. So far, that theory hasn't played out as well as I hope. And so I will just say that these are policies that aren't the Federal Reserve, so I'll just be open about that. These are not things that I have any say in. But as an economist, as a policy, public policy person, I have my own personal views, so these reflect my own views. I think that, without getting into considering whether those decisions decades ago or in the past were the best, I really do think for long-term development, you need to have all the legs of the stool. So what are the most important things for economic development? One is business development, so having jobs and having businesses come in and employ people obviously is a critical component. So if you think about tax advantages or other programs, that helps. The second is what economists, so I'm an economist, so I talk like one, is human capital, and that's investing in the people. And in fact, when you look at long-run growth over centuries, what really changes our standards of living is how much we invest in our human capital. That's our job training, our education, early childhood education, everything, lifelong education, what we all do. So I think that's the second piece that's really important. And the third, obviously, is infrastructure and kind of long-term investments like public investments. So if I were to ask you, instead of answering what should we have done in Puerto Rico, what should we do in Puerto Rico, I would say that we need to take care of all three of these to have a really strong, balanced economy. We both need, a setup where businesses can succeed and prosper. We need investments in education, training, and human capital. And third, we need to have a really resilient, strong infrastructure that supports economic and other development. So I think it has to be one of the things we've learned, I think, in economic development the last decade or so is that a lot of federal programs are very siloed. They're about housing, or they're about healthcare, or they're about jobs or transportation. And what we know for a community to succeed is the example I always use is a Jenga tower, the kids game, where if you pull out too many of the pieces, the tower collapses. So for a community to be successful, you need to have all of those pieces. You need the education, the healthcare, the jobs, the daycare centers, the supermarkets, and all of that. And so I guess my vision for all this is that whenever we go in and think, how do we create long-term prosperity, you really think about from that holistic point of view, how do we bring all those pieces, not just focused on tax advantages for one or the other.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you for visiting the Borough of the Bronx. My name is Joshua Rivera. I'm with Ostos Community College. I'm here with many of my colleagues today. Delighted to hear that the Fed did a study about community college and the job sectors. And my question was really about, were there any things that stuck out in the report? Like, did you focus on particular job sectors? Did you see some trends? Because one of the challenges that we face year to year, and our president says this quite often, is we're preparing students for jobs in the future that don't even exist right now. So were there some trends, were there sectors that were more prevalent right now? Is there an area that we should be focusing our attentions? We've been spending a lot of time in the construction industry and IT, but maybe there's a different sector we haven't noticed in the report.
Sure, that's a great question. So the report did have some pretty big kind of headlines around that, and happy to share that with you. So one of the things we learned is that community colleges are actually engaging with all the different sectors of the economy. Some more in some areas, like depending on how many jobs are in the area. Here we have a lot of jobs in healthcare and some other areas. So you definitely see engagement across a broad set of industries and sectors, which I think is a positive sign. I think the one thing that I would comment on is that this is say something that it sounds overly general, but the big growth in jobs in the U.S. economy is really in the service sector. And a lot of people, I think, make a mistake when they hear service sector. They think of baristas or kind of entry-level jobs. Well, my wife is a nurse, so that service sector is a really high-paying profession, extremely rewarding. Her profession is growing by leaps and bounds. We're seeing that in education and other areas, a lot of the service sectors. So I think that thinking about where the jobs are and preparing people for that, beyond some of the trades which are important, beyond tech, which is obviously important. Just thinking about that there's a huge sector that's growing continuously in demand for people in the services. Obviously, in the community college world, teaching nurses is something we've been doing for a long time. But just thinking about it from that point of view. Let me just share, I said something already, but I'm going to share with you. So what did the students tell us? We just met with 3, so as an economist, that's a small sample, but it's a good sample. So they were asked, what is it that you did not get in your college, and this was not community college, but what is it that you did not get in your college that you're getting in this practical program? And they said, actually doing stuff. And it said, my teachers in college taught me the materials. They read, we read the books, we took the lectures, we did all that. But now I'm being forced to do it myself. And one of the things that one of the students said to me today, which really stuck with me, because a little bit about that, said, and when we did projects in college, it was always teams, because we're told that we need to learn how to do things in teams. Well, I actually find that, for preparing for a job interview, I need to be able to say I did something myself. And that resonates with me as an employer. And learning that skill to do the project from A to Z and finish it on time, and I was going to say under budget, is really something that I definitely will hire people who can deliver on time and on budget. So those were my kind of my feedback. I think the other thing that I would add on this is it's just this idea that employers are looking for people. I mean, every time I talk to anybody, this is all they talk about: getting people better prepared to start work and and be productive early on. But thanks for asking that question.
Over here,
I can just repeat the questions to you. You get to strangle somebody.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Mohan, Executive Director of the Bronx Health and Housing Consortium. I was really happy to hear you talk about the silos between health and housing, because that's exactly what we're trying to break down. So I want to talk about housing and all of this. As we're thinking about economic development and job growth, we have over 60,000 people in the shelter system in this city, and most of them are working. So, they're still facing issues of affordability, of rampant income discrimination based on housing subsidies and low credit or no credit. So how is the Fed thinking about the availability and expansion of affordable housing to kind of balance with this new job growth and economic development?
So this is obviously a number. The question is about housing affordability, whether in the Bronx, but this is something I hear on every part of my trips around this region. So one of the things I go back to is connecting the various pieces, and obviously building affordable housing, finding ways to keep rents to a reasonable level. One of the things I've learned